Oh, I'm going in. I'm going to be controversial on this one. I'm going to solve the gun problem in the United States of America right now. Why don't you just do it like a pilot's license? You know what I mean? Like when you get a gun, like when you get like a pilot's license, you know, you're flying Cessnas or whatever. You can't just go fly an American Airlines jet. You got to work your way up. You got to get rated. You know, I don't think if you get like a gun license, I think the first thing you should get, regardless of your age, is you get a little 6-shooter. That's all they give you. Or maybe one of those little Saturday night specials. That's you get a little one-shot thing. That's all the you get, right? And then as you work your way up to more and more powerful guns that could potentially do way more damage, you have to pass major psychological evaluation. And if you do, the world is your oyster, and you can have whatever weapon you want. How about that? Does that work out for everybody? I wasn't saying take guns away. I wasn't saying this. I wasn't saying that. I wasn't talking about...
No, Bill. We need to have them... You don't want to take away rights from the mentally unstable, violent people, do you? That's their constitutional right to have a gun. Now, they can't have a fucking... Now, if they have brass knuckles or a switchblade knife... They need to go to prison forever for having a dangerous weapon. If they have nunchucks, they need to go to prison forever. That's a dangerous concealed weapon. But if they have an AR-15 or an Uzi, that's A-O-fucking-K. Nunchucks? That's too far. What do you want? Michelangelo and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are going to have fights with the Foot Clan? We can't have that. Now, AR-15, have at it, Haas.
About fucking gender-neutral Glocks.
In fact, in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the judge threw out a charge of having the AR because he was underage and it was illegal for him to have it by saying an AR-15 is not a dangerous weapon. But if it was ninja stars or it was nunchucks, then Kyle Rittenhouse could have gone to prison for having an illegal minor having an illegal dangerous weapon. But an AR-15 that wasn't legal for him to own, that was A-OK. And he didn't let the charge go to the jury. He threw it out. That shows you how batshit crazy Americans are. Ninja Star, no 18-year-old no underage kid could have that. AR-15, that is so safe, it's not even possible for a jury to decide that it was dangerous. Put that into your pipe and smoke it. Think about that.
Just saying, fucking lunatics. Fucking lunatics. At some point, can you not make it easy for a fucking lunatic to oh my God, I don't want to talk about it because it's so fucking overwhelmed. I can't fucking imagine all of those people what they're going through. It's just I don't know. There's people still, I don't know. And I think the left is fucking stupid because then they start yelling at people on.
Oh, great. Now here we go. We got to have the fucking enlightened centrist mode. Left is stupid because they yelled at people. Oh, God forbid. The fifis are getting hurt. Actually, the left doesn't yell enough. That's actually the problem. The left is all fucking loser cucks who beg on their knees. That's what Senator Whitehouse is doing. Begging on his knees. Please, please. There isn't anybody who's angry on the left. That's our biggest fucking problem. Bernie Sanders had that energy, which is why he was beloved. He came out there and said, I'm going after the millionaires and the billionaires. Nobody else has even had the balls. What is Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden doing right now? Rational Republicans. We're going to work with the rational Republicans. That's what they're saying right now. What are you talking about, Bill? People like me don't have the fucking national television shows. We're not on Netflix.
On the right, not saying everybody on the right has a gun. Not saying everybody on the left doesn't like guns. I'm just saying, like, that this fucking thing where you just start yelling at the other side. How about you just go, hey, what if we do this? What if we...
that hasn't been tried. Sucking the right's cock hasn't been tried hard enough. We haven't debased ourselves enough. That's, thanks, Bill. If we had only tried that. Nobody tried kissing the Republican ass. What country are you in, Bill? That's all the Democrats do.
Try to weed out the bad apples by doing this. As long as you're not, as long as you're not fucking crazy, we'll give you a fucking bazooka, right? And you can take it outside of your backyard and go fucking shoot at something.
Hey, your children just got murdered at elementary school. Why don't you calm down and kiss the NRA's ass more? That's great. Philosopher King, Bill Burr.
The fuck? Someone would have a problem with that. Oh, that's a way to control people. It's a fuck. Anyway.
Truly the incredible brains of our day.
Remember how Republicans got what they want by never yelling at liberals and left ITST?
That's a good point.
Definitely didn't shit like call people terrorists for not supporting the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah, good point. Oh, yes. Why equality is unhelpful as a political goal.
A common argument against Marxism that I've heard from the right is that Marxism cannot work because it strives after absolute equality, and this is bound to fail because humans are unequal by nature. What such critiques miss is that absolute equality is not what Marxism strives for. This is just one among many of the common misrepresentations you hear about Marxism, even though Marx and Engels were explicitly anti-egalitarian. Although the insights of Marx are helpful here, they are applicable to all political thought. Equality is meaningless if you don't specify what type of equality you are talking about. Imagine, for instance, that you have two sticks. What would it mean for them to be equal? Well, they might be equal in size, in length, in color, in texture, or any number of other qualities. But they cannot be absolutely equal. The only way for two sticks to be absolutely equal would be for them to literally be one and the same stick. This is no different for people. Because for two people to be absolutely equal, they have to become the same person. A community of absolutely equal people is literally impossible. This is an insight that Marx and Engels pointed out. And yet, for example, Jordan Peterson makes this argument.
In fact, they made it on PragerU. You can't do it. New shooting just dropped? Jesus Christ.
So a big technical problem is like, well, what measure of outcome? You know, there's lots of outcomes, like how happy are you? How much pain are you in? How healthy are you? How much money do you have? How much opportunity for movement forward do you have? What's the width of your social connections? Like, what's the quality of your friendships? Do you have exposure to art and literature? Like, you know, you can multiply the number of dimensions of evaluation between people innumerably, right? Because there's all sorts of ways to classify people. You're going to get equality of outcome on every one of those measures?
Yet he does this thinking that he's making an argument against Marxism.
Most people don't understand Marxism.
Here's what Engels wrote in a letter in 1875.
Between one country, one province, and even one place and another, living conditions will always evince a certain inequality, which may be reduced to a minimum, but never wholly eliminated. The living conditions of alpine dwellers will always be different from those of the plainsmen. The concept of a socialist society as a realm of equality is a one-sided French concept deriving from the old liberty, equality, fraternity, a concept which was justified in that in its own time and place it signified a phase of development, but which, like all the one-sided ideas of earlier socialist schools, ought now to be superseded, since they produce nothing but mental confusion, and more accurate ways of presenting the matter have been discovered.
Marx pointed out that making two people more equal in one respect necessarily makes them more unequal in another respect. Consider two workers working for a wage. Because of different capabilities, they work different hours, and you want to make them more equal. If you try to make them more equal by equalizing the wage they get per hour, they become unequal in their total earnings. On the other hand, if you equalize their total earnings, you make their hourly wage more unequal, and this applies across the board. Because of this, Marx never advocated abstract equality as a political goal, instead believing that whether an increase in equality is desirable or not should be judged individually.
I mean, is this not so pathetically obvious? Is this not pathetically obvious to everybody who isn't brain dead? Aram, thank you much for gifting some subs. Abstract equality as a political goal is not desirable. We should judge individually whether greater equality in some area is desired. Wow! Obviously, Marx thought of these basic fucking objections.
Individually in each given scenario and with regards to each given respect. For instance, in a hospital with limited staff, people will receive unequal amounts of medical attention based on how bad their medical condition is.
Whoa, whoa. People should get unequal medical attention based on how sick they are? How about how much they have to pay? Okay? If Jeff Bezos has a hangnail, he should have every fucking doctor working on his case compared to the guy over here having the heart attack. You got to think about the profit of the hospital. It just makes economic rationality for you to spend all your resources on Jeff Bezos because of his ability to pay versus that heart attack worker guy. Fuck that guy. He only makes like $100K a year. Screw that guy. You have Jeff Bezos in the house. That's economically rational.
A good thing. Therefore, instead of advocating the abolition of political inequality, an abstract and vague goal.
Someone says, I have a get a free monthly sub with Prime Gaming sign up. Is this where I should go? I mean, you should click on it. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link, or they'll make you get Amazon Prime.
Marx advocated the abolition of class distinctions, a much more concrete goal. If you want a good video on this specific topic, I highly recommend Anarcho-Pack's video, Marx and Engels Were Not Egalitarians. You might say now that I'm misrepresenting what people mean when they advocate for equality, that they mean something more specific, such as equality of opportunity or equality of outcome. However, both of these are equally unhelpful. Equality of opportunity cannot exist either. As Engels said, it can be reduced, but never fully abolished. People will inevitably be living in different locations, different climates, be raised by different people, have different skills and interests.
That's right. Like if you have a really cool parent or mentor, you're going to have more opportunities. If your parent or mentor are more able at raising you, you're going to start from a better position. We obviously can't completely eliminate that. Duh. But we can give you more material opportunities.
Equalities. Equality of outcome is an equally unsubstantial goal. Equality of outcome in a literal sense would have to mean everyone becoming the same person. And anyone who thinks that Marxism is about enforcing equality of outcome has not even begun to understand it. Notice that even the famous phrase from each according to ability to each according to need that Marx used to describe the higher phase of communism implies neither equality of opportunity nor equality of outcome, as people obviously have both unequal abilities and unequal needs. It is true that equality of outcome or equality of opportunity can be reduced to a certain minimum in certain respects, but whether this will be desirable or not will depend on what type of equality you are talking about. This is not just me being pedantic either. Although advocating for equality can work well as a slogan, it is very unhelpful when setting up concrete political goals or standards, and when using it, we can often be led to confusion by political opponents. Whenever making political arguments about equality, we are always talking about equality in some respect, even if we don't specify it. Because two people in an argument may both be using the word equality, but implicitly be talking about it in different respects, this can lead to deliberately deceiving argumentation. Consider this scenario, for instance. In a country where same-sex marriage is illegal, a same-sex marriage advocate says that same-sex marriage must be legalized to ensure equality. The opponent replies, but you already have equality. You have the equal opportunity to marry people of the opposite sex, just like every other citizen. This is an approximation of an argument that I have actually heard, and where it goes wrong is that the two people are talking about equality in different respects. The advocate is talking about equality with respect to consensually married.
If you're gonna give me a Bernie Sanders video, like a stream, try to give me one where I can go back in time to watch the beginning, because I'm not gonna jump into the middle. The shooting was a false report? Okay.
Marrying an adult.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to say.
While the opponent is talking about equality with respect to marrying an adult of the opposite sex. This is why even talking about equality before the law is deficient as a general political goal. This is also what happens when people ask questions like, if men and women are equal, shouldn't you be allowed to hit women? Or, if women want to be equal, why don't we draft them to the military? Instead of asking questions about how to decrease violence in society in the first place, or resisting compulsory military recruitment, an exclusive focus on equality can lead us to ask all the wrong questions. Instead of asking for equal rights, why not ask for better rights? Consider another example, which I found in Angela Davis's book, Are Prisons Obsolete? Angela Davis mentions a self-proclaimed feminist and former prison warden, Tekla Miller, who wanted men's and women's prisons to be more equal, and because of that, she argued that we should increase the weapons arsenals in women's prisons, and also instruct guards in women's prisons to shoot at escapees, just as they shoot at escapees in men's prisons. Angela Davis correctly responds,
It does not occur to Miller that a more productive version of feminism would also question the organization of state punishment for men as well. Paradoxically, demands for parity with men's prisons, instead of creating greater educational, vocational, and health opportunities for women prisoners, often have led to more repressive conditions for women.
This clearly shows one negative outcome that advocating for abstract equality can have. Miller, by utilizing an abstract and formalistic ideal, ended up arguing for making women's prisons equally as bad as men's prisons, rather than considering the positive material goals we should be seeking with regards to prisons as a whole. This is partially where the worst aspects of liberal feminism come from, such as when, instead of asking how to establish better labor conditions and novel relations of production, formal notions of equality may lead us to advocate for increased diversity among CEOs.
More transgender drone pilots. Bernie's the only one live that I can find right now. Bernie's Twitter account, you mean? Try his YouTube. See if his YouTube's live.
Marx avoided this mistake. Instead of seeing abstract notions of equality as the goal of politics, he saw the goal as the full development of each individual.
And I've tried to explain this every time. Socialism is the ultimate individualist perspective. Like, when everybody reaches their full... That's what, that's why, like, when you look at Four Futures, which is a book that has some flaws, one of the things I really like about it is when you talk about communism, we don't talk about the end of inequality or the end of a person being influential or more desirable than others. We talk about people able to focus on that self-improvement. Imagine Star Trek. What do they say? When you talk to Jean-Luc Picard about what the future is like, what does he say? It's about each individual dedicated to improving themselves. They're not squabbling over fucking treats anymore. Can I rewind this? Okay, I can. Thank you so much. Okay.
The left is completely capable of seeking political emancipation without invoking abstract and often vacuous notions like equality. Instead, access to education, healthcare, improved labor conditions, more horizontal relations of production, and the full development of the individual are all better things to advocate for. I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters: Aesthetics, Aidan Williams, Jackson Ward, Joseph Patrone, Bad Horn Choir, Quantum Computation, Rooftop Korean, Industrial Robot, Kelly Rankin, John Drum, No, Yvonne, Jinsu An, Gibbering Idiot, Carrie, Juan Chavez, Timur Mar, Numu, Andrew Burns, Michael Doherty, D. Lang, Sinabi, Isabel Abdalali, Robert Phillips, Adam Johns, Babak Golshahi, Tendies 123.
Thank you for all the patrons. This is why I like Star Trek, because there's very few people who even bother. That was a really good video, by the way. That's CCK Philosophy. You should follow him on YouTube. And one of the things I like about Star Trek is they actually had the balls to imagine a better future that was not capitalist. Many times the best futures you hear about now are these like futures where there's some techno gizmo that makes stuff cheaper. But most visions of the future are now dystopian. So Star Trek had the balls to imagine a future that wasn't. Why it's such an that's why it's still so important as a cultural touchstone.
That's what all this is about. A lot has changed in the past 300 years. People are no longer obsessed with the accumulation of things. We have eliminated hunger, want, the need for possessions. We've grown out of our infancy.
You've got it all wrong. It has never been about possessions. It's about power.
Power to do what?
To control your life, your destiny.
That kind of control is an illusion.
Then what will happen to us? There's no trace of my money. My office is gone. What will I do? How will I live?
This is the 24th century. Material needs no longer exist.
Then what's the challenge?
The challenge, Mr. Offenhouse, is to improve yourself. to enrich yourself. Enjoy it.
That's communism. That's it. If somebody's like, I can't really imagine a communism or a socialism, just be like Star Trek world. That's it. Those capitalists basically vulgarize proud hoard and mutualism as if magic post-scarcity 3D printer will save us. Yes. Even if there was a 3D printer, a hyper-advanced 3D printer, they would just simply transfer ownership from the printed objects to the blueprints for the printed objects. You'd have to pay fees every time you printed something. And if you've ever bought a textbook at a university, you know that those fees could adjust. Like if we had some magic 3D printing technology, that's what they would do. And there would be much more focus on intellectual property defense. You'd have so many more intellectual property attorneys, so many more sniffers of illegal released blueprints. They might even make open source illegal. You have to charge. That's the way capitalism will. So even if we had replicators, unless you change the society, you still are not going to change the outcome. Licensing fees for the replicator. You wouldn't download an Earl Grey tea. Exactly. Counselor Troy talks about Mark Twain, about humanity's future. Oh, I remember this.
Any place that doesn't stock a good cigar doesn't rank high in my book.
If you must have one, I'm sure we can replicate it for you.
Oh, if you think that one of these imitations can take the place of a hand-wrapped Havana,
I wouldn't know.
Well, that's the problem I see here. All this technology only serves to take away life's simple pleasures. You don't even let a man open the door for a lady.
I think what we've gained far outweighs anything that might have been lost.
Oh? Well, I'm not so impressed with this future. Huge starships and weapons that can no doubt destroy entire cities, and military conquest as a way of life.
Is that what you see here?
Well, I know what you say, that this is a vessel of exploration and that your mission is to discover new worlds. That's what the Spanish said.
Deck 36.
And the Dutch and the Portuguese. It's what all conquerors say. I'm sure that's what you told that blue-skinned fellow I just saw before you brought him here to serve you.
He's one of the thousands of species that we've encountered.
By the way, Mark Twain was a based anti-imperialist. He was a major member of the American Anti-Imperialism League. So he's saying, you say you're all about liberation. That's what you're just a fucking imperialist like everybody else.
In a peaceful federation with most of them. The people you see are here by choice.
So there are privileged few who serve on these ships, living in luxury and wanting for nothing. But what about everybody else? What about the poor? You ignore them.
Poverty was eliminated on Earth a long time ago. And a lot of other things disappeared with it. Hopelessness, despair, cruelty.
Young lady, I come from a time when men achieved power and wealth by standing on the backs of the poor, where prejudice and intolerance are commonplace and power is an end unto itself. And you're telling me that isn't how it is anymore?
That's right.
Maybe. It's worth giving up cigars for, after all.
So yeah, I mean, everybody knows that Star Trek is socialist. It's okay. It's all right. You can admit it. How the fuck did this show get made in the 80s and 90s? The absolute low point of leftism in the USA, because it was a good story that people wanted to watch. Capitalists will let you hang them with the rope they sold you. I ordered a salad in Pittsburgh, and this is what I got. And? Too many cucumbers, IMO. And? Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap